Assalamu alaikum. Today's video is going to be the books I recommend. Before I start the video, however, I would also like to mention that a lot of people that I used to know watch my channel on fake accounts, or they put certain comments and they don't think I know them, but I know you, and I don't find you intimidating at all. There's some books I couldn't find, especially one that I recommend and I always think about when it comes to sisters and hijab, which I will show on my phone because alhamdulillah I have a photo of it on my phone. There are many more books. However, these are the ones that I'd say were most beneficial in my opinion. They're not going to be in a specific order. I'm just going to go by the one I grab and talk about it and let you guys know more about it. First and foremost is the clear Quran. This is what reverted me, guys. Alhamdulillah. I don't know if they do this copy anymore, but as you guys can see, it has been with me a few years. I love it. I love it so much. It's one of the best translations in my opinion, since I have several copies of Qur'ans, and this is the one that I've liked the most. It goes into it, the commentary is so nice. It gives references, which all of them do, but I like the way this is explained the most, and the way it's explained is easy to understand as well. So for any beginner Muslim who wants to be able to understand the Quran properly, this would be the one. Or for anybody who's interested in Islam, this again would be the one I recommend. Okay, so actually, seeing that this one is here, let me get this one out of the way. This Tafsir as-Sadi. This one is a commentary on the Quran. Now, I've heard people recommend Ibn Kathir's one, which I disagree with, because in my opinion, Ibn Kathir's tafsir is much harder to understand in comparison with As-Sadi's one. This one, once you've gained enough knowledge and once you've read the Quran and managed to understand quite a lot, or you have a general understanding of the Quran and a general understanding of the deen, this is the one I recommend. Any tafsir, as a beginner, it's going to be this one, not Ibn Kathir's one. This, I would say Ibn Kathir's tafsir comes after this one. How do I explain this? The tafsir in itself can be overwhelming in the sense that there's a lot, because you're beginning to understand the text in more depth. And I would say this is the beginner level of once you've completed this one, then you go to Ibn Kathir's one, because it's a bit more detailed. I don't have too much to say about this. It's just a commentary, right? It's for you to understand the Quran. I really like it. It's easy to understand. I don't know, there's not much to say on the tafsir, can't I? Hear ye, we have diseases of the hearts and their cures. I remember when this went viral, everyone was like, you should get the book, and you should get the book. Yeah, it's a good book, and it does exactly what the title says. It allows you to gain a bit more Islamic knowledge in relation to the way you're feeling and ways of coping Islamically. And it also talks more in depth about what it means to have a disease in your heart Islamically, and it gives Quranic references and also narrations. Next, this book. This book, I need to reread it, okay? If there's one thing I recommend, like I advise everybody to do, is once you've read a book, read it again and then start putting the tabs on, because a lot of my books, they tend to have tabs, and this one does not, because I need to reread it. This book, guys, is insane. I love this book so much. I love this book so much. It talks about the Dajjal, right? I remember as a reader there were many misconceptions about the Dajjal. So there's many innovations, many lies about the Dajjal that I used to believe that we shouldn't be believing. And this book talks about the characteristics of the Dajjal, the key terms that you should know, such as Messiah. So there can be the Messiah of guidance, Messiah of misguidance, and the Dajjal would be the Messiah of misguidance, and then Isa alayhi salam would be the Messiah of guidance. So, and it talks about several terminologies, and that there's a guy called Ibn Sayyid who at the time people thought he was the Dajjal, and then a lot of the consensus now, although some may differ, say that he was a Dajjal. So he was a guy who would misguide people, but he wasn't the Dajjal, because one of the characteristics, or one of the things about the Dajjal, is that he wouldn't be able to have children, he wouldn't be a Muslim, whereas Ibn Sayyid, he was a Muslim and he had children. He had a child, if I'm not mistaken. This book, it combats a lot of misconceptions. It's such a good book. I love this book so much and I recommend it. This book right here, this is fundamental in my opinion. Now you can have this different books, but this is the easiest one to understand in my opinion. It's a book on Tawheed. Every Muslim needs to have knowledge on this, okay? You need to know what pure monotheism means, and you need to understand Tawheed, because Tawheed isn't just Tawheed. It's not just the oneness of Allah. There is so much to Tawheed, guys. It's insane. It's actually insane. In my opinion, this book is good for reverts, and even for Muslims who want to increase their knowledge. One, because it establishes and increases you in knowledge in one of the most fundamental things, and also it's one of the easiest books to understand in terms of what Tawheed is. So again, this book I recommend a lot. This is like essential knowledge. Next we have this one, a book on the hijab. Now this is for my girls. This one is for y'all. Also, I want to mention that some of my books, they don't come from a specific madhab. I must mention that I studied all 4 madhabs. I don't take from one particular one. I take from all 4 depending on the authenticity and the stronger evidence, if you get what I'm saying. So that's why some of my books come from Hanafi fiqh, or they're not necessarily from Hanbali. But anyway, this book on the hijab is such a good book. There's another book that I'm going to show you guys now. This has to be my favorite video. I read this like a year ago. It's so good. It goes in depth about the hijab, the differences of opinion slightly, but also the evidences about the niqab. This book as well is such a good book. I read this one a long time ago as well, but it gives evidences for the niqab, and not just the niqab but also the jilbab, and also the commentary on the Quran in relation to the verses of the hijab. So this is another great book that I recommend, and this was such a fast read for me. Okay, this one is not a book recommendation, however this is a book warning. Timeless Seeds of Advice. It was gifted to me like 3 times. I have like 3 copies of this book and I read all of it. This isn't the book that, where is it? I have another Timeless Seeds of Advice, which is all annotated because I really loved the book when I read it. And the book itself is such a good book, but it's a bid'ah, it's an innovation. It has a lot of innovations in it, and I'm warning against it because some things can look good and they're actually bad. This book unfortunately was such a good read and I loved it so much, and I read it in Ramadan like 2-3 years ago. Yeah, it's just a book full of innovation. So stay away from this book because it be talking like it's fact when it's not. But I will say I liked it a lot, but it's not good. Furthermore, this is like a children's book, but as an early reader this helped me understand the prophets and their stories, and it's a very simple book. It's a very good book when you want to understand more about the prophets in the Quran and maybe you don't have enough knowledge on it. This I recommend. And it was really fun to read actually because they didn't prolong it. It was more so in short, and they kind of let you know the most prominent details about the prophets and what they did. And yeah, this book I like. This one. 40 Hadith by Imam An-Nawawi. This one I loved so much. It talks about, obviously as you can see in the title, it talks about the hadith. It kind of gives you a greater understanding on those hadiths. I remember I read the book before my masjid had done lessons on it, so that was helpful, reading the book before the lesson. It's such a good book, but it's even better when it's paired with the lesson and you go through it with a teacher. But even as itself, like to read it by yourself, it's a really good book. And yeah, again, there's not too much to say, just it increases your understanding and your knowledge on hadiths and their relevance. The youth's problem, the solution to the youth's problem. I remember when I bought this and it was like interesting to me because I was just like, okay, so like let's see. I remember I read this on like when I used to go to work in the mornings. It talks about the struggles of the youth and the ways to cope about it Islamically, Islamic direction, so your redirection but Islamic redirection, and ways to go about certain things, why you should go a different way about certain things. So yeah, if you're young, maybe you're struggling with certain things, this book may be of benefit. Here I have 2 books which remind me of each other but are kind of different. This is Essential Islamic Knowledge, and this is the Hanafi fiqh. Okay, this is the Hanafi perspective, guys. This book I recommend because I liked it so much. Even though I subscribe mainly to the Hanbali madhab, this book I liked a lot, and it's literally what it says on here, Essential Islamic Knowledge, right? It's an easy read. That's another thing. A lot of my books are easy reads because they're books that I read in the very, very beginning of my revert journey, and books that I even like to reread now. This would be a book that would increase your knowledge, and it's an easy read. And the lawful and the prohibited. I like this. It's a thick one, but I like it. This book, as it says, I don't know, there's not much to say about these books. It's just exactly what it says. It talks about the lawful and the prohibited, and it just increases your understanding on what's lawful and what's prohibited. I wouldn't say this is such an easy read. It can be overwhelming. But this book I recommend once you've once you've understood the fundamentals of Islam and basic things on the deen, and you want to go more in depth, this is the book. And then my last book. Oh wait, there's another book. Wait, guys, I have the book. I have the book. It's right here. The one I said in the beginning of the video. It's right here. Guys, I love this book. I loved this book. It's insane. I love this book. So, oh my gosh, it's here. It's such a good book. This, by the way, just to mention, this book opened up my eyes to hadiths that I never knew existed, but they exist. And this is what convinced me of the niqab, personally. This and the other book. I'm trying to find, there's another book. I don't know if I brought it with me. It's Albani. It's an Albani's book on how to perform Salah correctly. If it's not here, then it's on my TikTok, somewhere on one of my videos. That's another amazing book that I love. I fear I do not have it with me. Developing khushu in the prayer. Now, me with ADHD, yeah, this kind of increases your understanding of the importance of khushu, because with my ADHD, it's very hard to concentrate on things, and it's very easy for my mind to wander off. And I'm not going to say I still don't have that issue now, because I do, but when your mind understands the importance of khushu and the impact it has on you, it kind of encourages you to be more concentrated in something. How do I explain this? A lot of people used to like advise me, like, imagine Allah is in front of you while you're praying, and they're like, that would never help me, because in my mind I'm always like, well, that's not true, is it? But it's like it's a different thing when you understand the benefits that come with it, the necessity of having khushu in your salah, and the negatives of not having it, and also the positives of having it. Like, when you get a greater understanding of the benefits of it, you're inclined to do it more. That's my book recommendations. I have so many more, but you know, like, for another day. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to try and link them in the description. If I don't, I apologize. I might have to create like an Amazon thing so that I link everything and then you guys can just click and find it easier, right? Like, that would be easy, I think. Anyway, yeah, that's all. Assalamu alaikum.